All right, we are live here at the Attention Era Media Studios overlooking beautiful downtown Milwaukee. You're watching hour 6 now of 24 hours, so we're a fourth done if I did my math right.
That is 1/4 done.
Yeah, 1/4 done. Awesome.
Otherwise known as 25%.
Or 25%. We're a little punchy after 6 hours. So,
literally, she hits me.
we're doing live Google Hangouts in celebration of Community Manager Appreciation Day. This is our third year doing that, and year 5 of Community Manager Appreciation Day. We'd like to give a special shout out to our award sponsors: Be the Change Revolutions, Flossler, Higher Logic, My Community Manager, Online Community Results, socialmedia.org, and Sprout Social. So we're the gang from My Community Manager. My name is Baruch, co-producer here, as well as Director of Awesome with Be the Change Revolutions, and kick it over to you guys.
Hey everyone, I'm Sherry Rhodey. I lead community and user experience at a company called Rebellion Media, as well as co-produce the MJR Hangout here at the room.
Hey guys, I am Dom. I am social media freelance Highlander, I think is the new title I just got.
That's new this hour.
That's new this hour. As well as hang out with these two cool kids every Friday with My Community Manager.
And if you're wondering what's over my shoulder here, this is actually a live display from Zoof. So if you guys wanna be on the board, just go ahead and tweet some great stuff over at #CMAD, #CMAD selfie, and all the other CMAD hashtags. So with that, we'll be talking about community management services, when and why, and hand things over to you, Terry and Kristen.
Okay, well, I am Terry Cogetton, and I am the social media and community coordinator with ICUC. I handle their social media accounts and also run their corporate social responsibility campaigns. Kristen?
Hi, I'm Kristen. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Kristen. This is officially my first hangout on air, by the way, so I apologize. But I'm Kristen. I am a social media strategist, and I'm really excited to be here with CMAD Group.
Okay, and on down the line, Casey?
Hi, my name is Casey Szymanski, and I am the social media manager for American Hotel and Lodging Educational Institute in the hospitality industry.
Great. Chris? Yep, Chris might be having trouble. Emma, we'll go on to you.
Hi, I'm Emma Cunningham. I'm a digital strategist at FCB in Toronto.
Okay, and Fee?
Hey, I'm Fiona Boyle. I'm a senior account manager with ICUC as well.
Okay. Sheldon?
Hello, everybody. I'm Sheldon Levine, also most know me as 40 Deuce, and I need more coffee. Aside from that, though, I'm also the community manager for Systemos, who does social media intelligence and monitoring. Happy to be here, even so early in the morning.
And Chris? Can we hear you? Okay, Chris having a little difficulty. I guess they're having a storm there, so I don't think hasn't been able to talk to us yet. And also just a reminder, turn off your mics when you're not talking, and then when you're ready to answer something, just pop them back on. Okay, so what we're going to talk about, as Brew mentioned, is about when and why a brand should have hire social media management services for their communities. So the first question that I want to ask is, at what point do you think a brand needs to hire a community manager service? And just unmute yourself and jump on in when you want to reply.
I think really when you need to start looking outside of your own company is when your social media gets really too large for you to handle. So if you're acting at scale, if you've got a really large group of fans that you're speaking to, you might need a little bit of extra assistance. So I work at an agency, so that's sort of where I'm coming from. But at an agency, we tend to just go a bit bigger. So if you want bigger campaign ideas, if you want something a little bit more, then that's when you'd go sort of the agency route. And you'd often get a community manager as part of the deal who responds to people, acts as your front line, your customer service person. Or you can even take it a step further and go with someone like ICUC, and we actually partner with them on some of our clients. And what they're really great for is that you can actually go around the clock. So if you've got an international fan base, if you've got, you know, something where you really need attention at 3 a.m. on occasion, and your community manager in-house does not want to be awake at 3 a.m., and I can't imagine why that would be. That's another reason why you might want to start looking at, you know, a service that can do that kind of thing for you.
So I may not be the most qualified person to jump in and answer this question, as I'm a in-house community manager myself. Oh wait. Hello, you can hear me? Sorry, I thought I messed up.
You're good. You're good.
Sorry, I messed up with my mute button there for a second. But yeah, I think that you guys sort of got it there. I've always sort of said this. There's a whole bunch of things that you need to consider, and community management is one of these, and it comes down to a time versus money type thing. If you're a small business and you can handle all of your social and community stuff in a little bit, like in an hour or so a day, by all means, go for it and rock it and do you. But as soon as that starts taking up a lot more of your time, and time that can be better well spent doing other things to help your business out, I think that's when it's time to start looking into one of these.
I think it's also important too, if it's something that you're just not interested in or want to do, that's probably a good time to get someone who is skilled in the art of community management.
I think it also depends on what the subject matter of your community is as well. You may have particular subjects that are sensitive in nature that you may not have the skill or the expertise. In addition, further to Casey's point, you know, you might not have the interest, but you might have the interest, just not you're not able or equipped to deal with some of the heavier topics or discussions that come up. You know, and you're looking for someone who has that kind of expertise and that kind of subject matter experience to really lead that community and handle any issues that come up or questions that pertain to something very, very specific.
Okay, great. Then keeping on along with that line, what are some of the ways that community management service could protect a brand's reputation, benefit it? How does that help the brand reputation? Okay, Dawn, I'll jump in at once here.
I thought I saw Sheldon moving for the mute button there, so that's why I didn't hit it right away.
No, coffee. Moving for coffee.
Oh, you're tricky. I think two of the biggest benefits are the quicker response times and just the constant vigilant eye on what is going on in your community. Those are the two biggest that I can think of.
Yeah, having eyes and ears on the page, and something further to what Emma said about, you know, services like ICEC where we are on the clock 24/7. You know, the internet never sleeps. People are online all hours of the day and night. Look at us at 5 o'clock in the morning doing all kinds of stuff. So, you know, having someone there who can protect your brand if people are posting spam or something inappropriate at 10 to 4 in the morning, you've got someone that's not going to stay up there for hours on end. You've got someone who can take care of it, take it down, get rid of it. If something urgent crops up, you know, any reputational risk, PR issues, media issues, any kind of threats against your brand or your employee or lawsuits or anything, you've got someone there who can kind of flag and intercept that and deal with that on behalf of your brand. And the turnaround time, the response time is a little bit more immediate than if you were to necessarily have to wait until, you know, the next business day until someone came in, turned on their computer in the office and looked into it. So there's definitely community managers are the eyes and ears of your brand, and they're on there 24/7 advocating for you on behalf of your brand with your clients or your customers or your fans, and really performing that service for you around the clock.
Yeah, I agree. I think the faster turnaround time is a big thing in going to an organization versus having a single community manager, because, you know, as awesome as your in-house community managers, they're really only one person. So, for example, on some of my brands, I'm not a community manager anymore, I'm a strategist, but I work with a community manager. So at any given time, you'll have him on your pages, monitoring your content, while I'm in the background doing social listening. So while he's seeing the things that people are saying to you, I can see things that people are saying about you in spaces you may not already be monitoring, which gives him the option to jump in there. Being in an agency or in a larger service, often we have access to some more higher-end listening tools, more tools in general, because if we're monitoring several clients, we may be able to just swing something a little bit fancier that may not apply to Sheldon, who has like the best tool in the world at his disposal all the time. But in general, I think that's one of the advantages to sort of looking outside your own house.
Yeah, well, I mean, I do happen to have access to a fantastic tool all the time, and I do happen to be in-house myself, so I'm a little offended. I'm just kidding. But I mean, I think one of the benefits of having, the ability to hire some professional community management services, that you also have people who really understand what's going on in the industry. Like, it's really like their business to make sure that they're on top of everything all the time, whereas if you're a small business owner or something per se, you probably have a ton on your mind. You're not going to be able to stay up to date on everything right away all the time. And so it really pays to have a professional, and sometimes it just doesn't make sense to have somebody super amazing like myself in-house for you. Having a service that you can hire on is always a great idea. It also may not cost you as much as having to have a full-time employee on. So it's definitely something to consider. You get the advantage of a pro, and I could totally be lying about the pricing of it, though. Somebody else who works for one of these amazing services can maybe call me on that, but that's how I see it in my head anyways.
Yeah, further to sorry,
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, further to Sheldon's point, small business owners, certainly they are jacks of all trades. They got a lot on their plates, and they don't want to be online doing this 24/7. They want to be running their business. So it's nice to be able to kind of hand that off to somebody else who can take care of that for them, not just during business hours, but holidays, evenings, weekends, overnights, if they go on vacation. You name it, a community manager is there, and you don't have to worry about it.
I think people were speaking to as well about the fact that they have knowledge, they have a knowledge base, and a lot of people when they first get started, I think, aren't at that knowledge level yet. So they can provide us a really great starting guide as well. And I realize a lot of companies maybe might not want to be that, but ultimately any company that starts with a community management service may eventually leave because they get the support. But in the beginning, they can be a real leader and help them and guide them in the process. So I think that's another way they can really benefit and protect a brand. But that's just, I think, one way. I think everyone hit on some really great points there.
Yep, and I'm sure every brand knows that they don't want to wake up in the morning and check their accounts and find that some crisis has happened. So that's definitely a huge plus, is having that 24/7 help. So our next question is, what is moderation, and how does that protect the brand?
I think moderation for me is, I view myself as being the lifeguard of the pool. So no craziness goes on, there's no running, there's no, we can still have fun, but we got to be cool about it. So my whole role, I think, in moderating is just keeping everything afloat and keeping people friendly and positive, just, again, the eyes on the water at all times.
It's also, I think, having just a pulse of the conversation, having a good idea of what is occurring, especially if there is anything more high level or concerning or something that can go to customer service and educate the company as a whole. So I think moderation also assists in that way.
I've always likened community management, like Casey talks about being a lifeguard, I've always likened it to like throwing a house party. Like, it's your house, it's your space, it's your party, you are in charge, you are responsible for letting guests in and letting guests out, making sure that they behave themselves, they, don't walk away with the silverware. They make sure that they are acting in a manner that you would want people who are entering your house. You're opening it up to the public, letting people in, making sure that everyone's having a good time, stimulating conversation, but also making sure that, everyone is kind of playing according to the rules.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how much I can, add to what Fiona said already. It's really, moderation and community management differ in that a moderator is really looking after what can you say, what can't you say, making sure everyone's in line, whereas the community manager takes it a step further to build the conversation, build relationships, bring insights on the community back to the brand, sort of play that bridge between, the finding out what the brand wants and the community wants and how you can make them both happy, whereas the moderator is really a support role for the community manager, making sure that everyone's doing what they're supposed to do when they're supposed to do it, and that consequences roll out if people aren't playing nice.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I did quite a bit of moderation myself, and really that is the first eyes for the brand. So if there's any guidelines not being followed or trolling or spam or anything like that, then the moderator is the one who's going to catch it. So it is a very important position. Okay. Let's jump on to that next question then. So what are ways you engage with the community, and how does hiring a community management service contribute to more effective engagement?
Oh, people nowadays expect a reaction, not a reaction, that's actually the wrong word. They expect a response basically immediately, and that response time continues to go down, 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 down. So to be able to get that and to get it quickly is really important. So that's where I think the community management services come into to be really useful, because a lot of places don't have the time or the money for that, and maybe can justify the money because the company says, oh, well, these people know what they're doing and we're not there yet. So I think that's a huge way you can engage. And then also just to be there to say, hello, how you doing, to create this face for the brand and this positive atmosphere that makes the people want to come back, because it's really about that human-to-human relationship in the end, and people are expecting that customer-friendly service for a company these days.
In one way, community management and engagement is also an extension, it can be in some brands, it's an extension of customer service. So people don't really see social, I mean, they don't differentiate social to complain or to ask questions or to give feedback about a brand. It's no different than picking up the phone and calling. A lot of places have their 1-800 numbers, but now people are just as fast to fire off a tweet or to go on a brand's Facebook page and complain. So one big way that we at least do engagement is to kind of take on that customer service role and to be there kind of after hours. Certainly, people certainly don't restrict their complaining to business hours. So we are there after hours and overnights, and kind of providing that customer service. And whether we're responding with canned responses on behalf of a brand or original engagement on behalf of the brand, a big part of how we engage with our community is to kind of be there and answer those questions, or at least traffic direct, and if we don't have the answers, to at least point them in the right direction of people who can definitely get those responses for them.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing, that people are reaching to social media for customer service. I've worked on some brands in the past where if you reached out to them via social media, they would want to follow up with a phone call. Because the people on social media, namely me, aren't the same people who run the customer service line. And it wasn't the most effective, because there's a reason that people were reaching out to us on social media, and that's where they wanted to connect. They don't like phones. I don't like phones. I don't want to talk to you on the phone. I'd much rather engage on a chat platform, or another way that's easy to type, easy to multitask. I don't like phones, and other people don't either. And I think they're on social for a reason. And most of the brands that I work on now, if you reach out to them on social, they will resolve it on social. They'll connect with you on your platform of choice, and I think that's so important to empower the community manager to be able to respond to those types of things, or to be able to flag them to a customer service team who can follow up on the page, on the Twitter, to make sure that you're engaging with customers in the way they want you to talk to them.
Absolutely. That's such a good point. Such a good point. Can you guys hear me? Am I there?
Yep.
Okay.
We can hear you.
Yeah, that's such a great point because, you know, and I'll say this just as a customer, when I reach out on a given channel on social media, that's where I want my answer. So it's really key. And the thing is about hiring a community management service, that doesn't mean that the brand or the company doesn't care. It's just leveraging expertise. And like Sheldon said, you may have in-house expertise, but it might be better for you to go outside with it. And hiring the right people, in-house or outside, is in your best interest, and then they can respond the way they need to for customer service.
Yeah, and I think Fiona had a really good point too. Whereas that you can have these sort of people who are going around the clock, because as amazing as I could possibly be at any point in any time, I'm not a robot. I need to sleep. I was sleeping shortly before we got on the line for this as well. And it happens that stuff happens overnight, depending on your company as well. Like a company like mine, we are a worldwide company. We deal with people around the world. There are some people who start their workday shortly after I go to bed. Sometimes they start it before I go to bed. But like I'm not around, so I have actually had like specific times when I've been asleep and I've woke up to find that, you know, something has been going on our social media. Now I've been really lucky that we have an office over in London, England, and so a couple of guys from my London office, they saw what was happening and they were able to sort of jump on and place with me, which is also really awesome, having some good people on your workforce that are willing to pitch in and help. But they covered whatever was going on for me. I woke up in the morning, first thing I did is I sent them an email from my phone in bed, and I said, I owe you guys a beer the next time I see you. But I mean, having a professional service job it is, like I just got lucky that these guys, like sometimes they're not always online. You know, they have their own job to do. They sometimes have other things to watch out for. They have deals to close. So I just got really lucky that they happened to see what was happening, jump in, and do that for me. They were almost like my own sort of moderation service, except I didn't have to pay them extra for it. But I could definitely see the benefits of having somebody just on standby 24 hours if you're a company that needs people on 24 hours.
And let's also keep in mind that, you know, when you talk about 24/7, there's a lot of global companies that require it. So when it comes down to it, the fact is where you may have most of your employees based in, say, the East Coast or the West Coast in the United States, they may be located in, you know, your customers may be located in London. They may be located in Germany. I mean, who knows where they're going to be? So to be able to respond to them again quickly, and I think it's a really great point that I got to go back to that was mentioned with the ability to engage on Twitter or specific places like that instead of trying to take it to a phone call. I think we've seen a change, and we're seeing that a lot more. But that kind of conversation requires a person who's on point, on there 24/7 to some extent, or at least for an extended period of an hour or two, because the conversation may take a few hours to happen. So a really key point in extending that conversation via potentially direct messages or over to email.
And further to your point, Chris, social media is so public that, you know, people complain, and I've seen it. People complain and they want to get a rise. They want all their followers to know that they're making a complaint and they're lodging, you know, their displeasure with the brand or something on Facebook. And it's in the brand's best interest to kind of kill it and put it out and stamp that fire down and take care of it as soon as possible, because it's their reputation that's at stake. If they're not answering, if they're not formulating a response, if they're ignoring whatever complaint is being raised, it just tends to get bigger and bigger. We have seen instances where celebrities have gone on Twitter and Facebook and complained about all manner of things with a brand, and, you know, they have thousands of followers, they get thousands of retweets. People just kind of taking up the cause on their behalf and making a small problem that much bigger. So it is in a brand's best interest, especially in the social space, because it's so public, to try and deal with these issues sooner rather than later.
For sure. And you know what? When they do it well, they can actually get a really good win out of it and spin it into something really good.
Yeah, there's nothing more rewarding than when you see someone who's just like, hey, thanks, that's awesome, you guys solved my problem, like, I'm so pleased, I'm so happy, and it's a really good feeling.
And remember, I think, when I was at Likeable Media for a short stint, I know Dave Kerpen would talk about just obviously the concept of being likable, and I think what it came down to was the idea that you could turn someone's day around. So if you go into it and you see something negative, don't get down about it. Go ahead and fix the problem. See what you can do to help them. You can't help everybody. That's obvious, and some people can not quit complaining. But you can really turn something around, and they become a brand ambassador for you.
Exactly, and it's that whole thing about being social. People nowadays, they really do expect the brand to have a personality. They know that there's real people behind it, so that engagement is a big factor. And of course, the customer service is so huge right now. You just see it all over the internet, and I know that you've all probably had the experience with brands or seen brands that people are asking questions and they respond right on, say, the Twitter feed or on Facebook and tell them how to resolve it, rather than just sending a direct message and trying to take it offline, because people are going to notice if you don't respond.
You don't respond, and then they make their own conclusions. But I think a lot of things are happening where a conversation starting to say, let's see how we can help you. We need account information. Let's take it off to a direct message, which is one of the few cases where I'm actually okay with direct messages. I think my standpoint on direct messages allows that. But so at least they start publicly with it, and if they have to take it off, they still keep it within the social space, which I think is huge, to the point that a few people made already today.
One thing that's interesting about Twitter is that it's such an on-the-go thing. Like Facebook, people are on their phones so much more these days. And Twitter, you have to be very succinct with your complaint. 140 characters or less, you basically got to sum up what the problem is. But we're finding, at least I'm finding with my clients and my accounts, that people are using Twitter when they're actually in a store or in a brand space. Like they've gone to the store and store has run out of product X or whatever, and they're taking to Twitter and just commenting about it off the cuff, just on the fly. They're not really, in my experience, as much going to Facebook unless it's like a larger complaint or a bigger complaint or a drawn-out complaint where they've already tried to contact customer service and it didn't work out, and now they've had to go to Facebook as a last resort. But I'm finding for the smaller, quicker, snarkier complaints, it's definitely more of a Twitter thing, and that sort of does demand a more immediate response for sure.
Okay, let's move on to our next question, and that is, what type of things are you looking for as you monitor what's happening in the brand community?
So personally, I'm looking for everything. I want to know what people like. I want to know what they don't like. I want to know how they're using my product, whatever kind of product that is. I want to know how they're not using that product. I want to know why they love us and we're their absolute favorite brand. I want to know why they hate us and why we're their least favorite brand, because the more I know about their likes and dislikes, the more I can bring those insights back to, or actually now, those are the types of things I want my community manager to be looking for to bring back to me, so that when I plan a content calendar, when I build out a strategy for the types of content I want to see the next month, the way we're going to interact with people, how they're most receptive to our messages, those kinds of insights make me a better planner, because I will give you I want to give our customers what they want, and the only way I can give them what they want is if they tell me what that is, and that to me is what sets a really strong community manager above and beyond a moderator or someone who's just on the page, is that they really play both directions. They're not just bringing insights from the brand to the community, but they're really bringing in from the community back to the brand, and I think that's so important for me.
Yeah, and one of the ways we do this too, I think, is by going ahead and knowing, again, we don't know all these at first and we're going to learn these, but using the keywords. I mean, if you're working for a brand that they're not going to necessarily always message you directly. They may use a hashtag with your name. So have a search function going for that. Be able to jump in where appropriate. So they may make a complaint like we've been talking about earlier, but they may not send it directly to you. So imagine their response when you came in and respond to it, even though they didn't tag you. They say, oh, they're listening, they care. So I think that's a key step. It's doing exactly what you're talking about, but that's one of the ways that we can do that and do that effectively.
Yeah, so I guess I'll step in here. I might know a thing about monitoring or two. I mean, I definitely think that what Emma and Chris have been saying is absolutely correct. I would start with exactly where Chris started. At the bare minimum, you want to be monitoring for different dimensions of your brand, and you want to know all these little nuances as to how people are talking about your brand. So, you know, is there common misspellings of your brand? You want to make sure that you're searching for those. Also, do you have a nickname for your brand? Also always important, and it's really important to know these. I lived down in Australia for a little bit, and I remember when I got there and everybody wouldn't stop talking about this awesome place called Macca's, and I had no idea what they were talking about. It turns out that's what they call McDonald's down there. So there's always going to be these little colloquialisms for your name. Make sure you're monitoring all those. Make sure you have some sort of a wild card also set up. So I think Chris was saying if people start doing hashtags, so you never know, it might be your brand fail. I mean, unfortunately, these are little things you have to be monitoring for. And then after you're past that sort of initial little phase, because that just puts you in the sort of listening and reactive phase for when people are talking about your brand specifically, you want to go to where Emma's talking about, and you want to know insights. So you can set up much deeper monitoring. So you can start, creating like we call them media sets at our company. You might just put together a Twitter list, but of who are the people that talk about your brand the most. You might just want to keep an eye on them because these are your really big fans. So you want to know what else do these people do? What else do they like? How else can your brand sort of be part of their lifestyle? Because there's many different ways that you could fit it in, but you need to know all these little insights about them. So you have to go a bit deeper than this just surface level. We're monitoring just for people saying our name. But the saying your name part is definitely where you want to start if you're just starting to get into this whole monitoring thing.
Yeah, I think the subject of listening as a topic could be like a whole day's worth of hangouts. But for example, if your brand sells red widgets, you're going to want to really kind of have an idea what's going on all over the place. People talking about red widgets, right? So.
Yes, the red widget industry.
Yes, that one.
Yeah, that's so true. I really feel like sometimes by the time they're saying the name of your brand, it's almost too late. You want to catch them before they're ready to purchase. And if they're already getting into brand names, sometimes it's too far to really insert your brand into the conversation. That's why I like the red widget analogy, because you want to get into the conversation when they're talking about the type of product that you offer. You want to catch them before they've made those decisions, before they've gotten into weighing one brand against another. You want to catch them as early as you can to really be able to influence that decision toward your brand as much as you can.
Yeah, that's definitely true as well. I mean, I constantly have searches going for people talking about social media monitoring in general, and then I have some really complex searches that are looking for people who are talking about, I'm looking for social media monitoring, or can somebody recommend one for me? And that way I know that I'm ready there to jump in on the conversation and sort of help hopefully guide them back towards our awesome brand. But the other one is I have the ability to jump in on conversations about social media monitoring in general. And when that happens, some people then just start pushing people my way. Actually, I know that Emma has actually sent many people my way through Twitter. Somebody's just talking about something. They go, "Oh, Sheldon's the man. Go talk to Sheldon. He's the guy." And I greatly appreciate that because like we were saying in the last question, I'm not as much as I want to be, I can't see everything 24/7 as a one-man team. So it's really awesome, and I think that's something else that's really cool is when you have community members who are looking out for you guys. So thanks, Emma.
And Sheldon, you make a really fantastic point too, because you said it earlier when you talked about going deeper than just searching the basic search, and that's another reason why I think a lot of these services are so beneficial. Is sometimes at a base level you've got a community manager at the company, or someone who's running strategic who can do this or that, but they can't necessarily they don't necessarily have the time to go in depth. So I think you hit the nail on the head with that one, because that's where they can really be a huge advantage. Kind of going back to question 2 or 3, I can't remember which one it was.
Yeah, there's definitely an advantage there. I mean, if you're really, really lucky, you might have somebody whose job it is to be mining through all that data. But that doesn't really happen a lot. More and more agencies actually are starting to have something like that. So Emma, you might have somebody on your team that's doing that for you. But a lot of other people, like in-house, that's my job on top of everything else I'm doing. Or even, I'm sure, those of you who work for the moderation services, that's something that you're trying to do, but it's extra on top of whatever else needs to be done. And that list of things that needs to be done is also going to be changing constantly day to day. So, I mean, it's really important that you get these things sort of set up if you can, and that way, you can just take a quick peek through maybe once a day and say, all right, well, I didn't really have time today because I had all this other going on, but what's going on in my industry? What can I catch up on? And what can I take care of?
Yep, and I mean, we could go into tools too, because there's plenty of those, but I know that I manage all of our company's actual social media accounts, and I have quite a few hashtags set up to listen for different things, see where we can jump in and say something as well.
One of the things that I always find, Emma made a really great point about listening for insights and giving back to your community and sort of giving them the insights in the company. So really looking externally. But one of the things that I do when I moderate and monitor and engage with my communities is I also look externally. And what I mean by that is what's going on in the world and what issues are at play in the world that might trickle down and affect my communities. What are people talking about? What are people getting excited about? What key events are going on in the world, and does that have any kind of ripple effect on my community? And it's crazy the way everything is kind of interconnected these days, and things that you wouldn't think that, something that's happening in the Middle East or a terrorist attack or something like that, you have to be so very sensitive. Like, do we have any scheduled posts going out? And you have to think of the impact of those posts and what do they say, and should we turn them off? Should we be sensitive about the fact that there's something going on? Should we, we don't want the community to think that we're trying to be self-serving. Should we adjust the calendar? Should we, make some sort of statement about what's going on? So certainly looking internally and giving the community back those insights and feedback from where they're coming from. But I think looking externally is also as important. Just to kind of see what's happening in the, quote, real world and how that may or may not impact what people are talking about in your community.
Yeah, I think that's really important. We're actually an international brand too, so we have offices in India and China and a little bit of everywhere. So we definitely have to stay on top of not just what's going on here in Orlando or maybe even our Lansing offices and here in the States, but worldwide. And that kind of touches on number 6, I think. So I might save some of that answer for that one. But yeah, we definitely have to monitor too what's going on just beyond our doors here.
Yes, and that does lead us into our next question, which is about crisis. So what happens when a crisis happens in your community? What steps do you have to take as a manager to handle this?
The first thing that I want my community manager to do is flag me or the other strategists on his other brands. And then we're really responsible for making the ultimate decision as to how we're going to move forward. From there, if we decide that we need to pull a post because it's no longer relevant, it's insensitive, if we need to change it, we'll go and probably get a couple people in the room. We'll get in the community manager, we'll get in myself, we'll get in someone from the account team, and put together this is like literally a 10-minute meeting to put together a quick action plan of what we want to bring back with our recommendations to the brand, at which point we'll hop on a phone call with them, because you never know when people are going to see their email unless they're me, and then I'll see it right away. You want to just get in front of it as quickly as you can to know what kind of content you have to take down immediately, and you want to get it done as fast as you can to make sure that you're not going to be upsetting people. Hello, Kat.
There is nothing I dread more than the 3 a.m. phone call. And, I think we've probably all been there at some point. And by the same token, I'm also glad when the phone goes off at 3 a.m. because I know people are looping me in. Oh, cute. People are looping me in, and I'm kind of able to take it over from there. One thing we do is we preemptively put together and proactively put together crisis playbooks, so that we are able, when we're signing on a brand or bringing a brand on board, we are able to talk to them proactively about, okay, so if a crisis hits in your community, what are the steps you want us to follow? Do you want us to go dark? If it's a crisis about public relations, who do we wake up at 4 in the morning? If it is a crisis about, an employee threat or a bomb scare or whatever, who do we wake up at 4 in the morning? If it's someone who got food poisoning, like massive food poisoning, 500 outbreaks of food poisoning from your brand, who to wake up at 4 in the morning, and what do you want us to say? And we have a little playbook that we try to put together for each client proactively, so that when crises do hit, we are able then to kind of immediately go to that playbook and take those steps. There's protocols in place, and each crisis is different. Of course, there are going to be some things that you can't really go by the playbook, and the first thing we always do is make that 4 a.m. phone call and wake up our brand person and ask them how they want us to handle it. But having those steps in place at least gives us some sort of framework to work from.
Yeah. Is Chris talking, or can we not hear him?
I did not.
There we go.
I was just going to say, just to go off what you said there, that it's all about the action plan. Even knowing, okay, if we go to encounter a scenario that does not fit description A, B, C, D, or E, we have to have action plan for X, Y, Z on how we're going to get together, who's in the conversation, like you spoke to, but not necessarily just at the brand, but if you're the community, the service, knowing who's on deck, so to speak. So be ready for it. Be ready for anything, and remember that every scenario is unique in its own right. So you have to look into every aspect of it. There may be one little thing that seems tiny, but is all the world's difference.
Yeah, and I also think it's pretty important to know how to go about either pausing those scheduled posts or whatever you need to do. Know the plan and know how to act on it. Just don't say this is what we're going to do. Luckily, my company is small in that we can get together pretty quickly. But again, it's all about knowing. I would be getting the 3 a.m. phone call. So yeah, so that would be me. But even on day-to-day basis, we kind of are quick to meet and see what are we going to say about this comment, even if it's just sort of an offhanded thing. Are we going to acknowledge it or just kind of hope it goes away sometimes?
So I'm picking up on some common threads with the answers, that it's all about communication, the quick communication, and having a good plan in advance. Do you guys agree?
It's a plan in advance, and I also think it's a great idea to practice scenarios in the sense of come up with hey, this happens, what do we do, and give people a chance to experience it, because if you get new people on board or it's just something that you have not gone through, I mean, you can't create an experience perfectly because, as I said, every experience is unique, but it's great practice and at least gets you in the idea of the process, even if it means pretending a 3 a.m. wake up. I mean, as painful as that sounds, it might not be the worst thing in the world, especially if you've never experienced it before.
And a pro tip, make sure your client contact lists are up to date, because clients have a habit of leaving companies and not telling you And then when that crisis hits at 3 a.m., you're calling someone who doesn't work for the company anymore because they haven't told you that someone has left. So not only is it a good idea to have that plan proactively in place, but to be reviewing it with your clients and your brands well ahead of time, like on a quarterly basis, just to make sure that there are no changes to escalation contacts, email addresses, cell phone numbers, you name it. People change and they don't think to inform everyone. So it's super, super important to be constantly reviewing that plan, not only with your internal team, but with your clients too, to make sure that nothing's changed on their end.
Right. Okay, so we got time for our last question. Share with us, if you can, a favorite or horrible experience in community management and what you learned from it. And of course, we don't want to say any brands on this, but just kind of in general, something that might have happened, good or bad.
My #1 tip is never get on the wrong side of the couponing community. That never goes well.
I have to say the experience I experienced, I can't name the brand, but I did deal with a shipping fiasco, and oh man, I learned so much from it about trying to turn a negative to a positive, and you can't do it every time, but when you do it right, you really truly do create these people who will go to bat for you no matter what, and it's pretty remarkable.
I will just say it's something that happened to me, not necessarily in my own role, but last summer we had the Tonight Show here in Orlando, and I have a knack for doing my nails, and they caught on to that via Twitter and put it on their Instagram account. So when I went into the taping, I came out to a phone that nearly had exploded because you had to shut all the phones down while you're in there. But it definitely taught me the key of keeping up with your community and paying attention to those hashtags and just monitoring the words that you're looking for. And I was one of the few, I think, that they pulled from Twitter and put on Instagram, but just to kind of fuel that community. I mean, it made me a fan for life. I'm there.
Oh, I guess it's my turn. Wow, I have so many stories of so many things. I've been doing this for what feels like forever already. I think one of my favorite things actually is in being a community manager is actually having an awesome community that is helping your brand out. So not really a specific example, but just because of the software that my company makes, it sort of gives anybody the ability to pull up these really awesome stats. So almost once a day I see people sharing like something really cool that's going on in their community or about the world news, but they're doing it using our system of stats, and we'll help to amplify what they're doing. But I mean, they've taken it upon themselves to be like, check out this awesome stuff that this software does, and I'm just always like, thank you, I love you, you're awesome, you just saved me from having to do that myself. So that's always an awesome one for me. I'll try and stay away from the bad stories in public anyways.
And to stick on the positive note, I would add, for those who don't know, I work in nonprofit. I essentially do strategic work for NYU. I'm not the content person. I always have to clarify that. I'm solely strategy and training. But when it comes down to it, seeing the reactions we get from students when we just send them a message, it's so amazing. So I compare that to when you're a brand and you reach out to a company. I forget who it was. We get a lot of brands I know in tweet chats who send messages in the middle of a chat, and it always makes our day. So I compare that moment of joy just because you mentioned someone, and that's every day that happens is fantastic, and I love it.
Actually, I'm going to vouch for Chris on that one. A couple months ago, I was doing a Twitter chat with my friend Deirdre Breckenridge, teaches an NYU PR class, and we were doing a Twitter chat. She was down in New York, and I was up here in Toronto, and we were chatting, and Chris actually jumped into the middle of it, and he said, "Oh, I saw you mention NYU," and I said, "I totally forgot that you worked there, Chris. Great job."
Thank you.
Okay, and I think with that our time is about up, and we'll let our hosts take over. I just want everybody to say we were supposed to be sporting some cap swag, so there's mine. Several of you got yours on.
Sorry guys, I tried, but it wouldn't fit with the headphones.
I wear mine.
I made
I
the
wear mine
mistake
like
of doing
every
my
day,
hair.
so.
Yeah, we got a little bit of Yankee going on here. I just want to say, go Yankees!
Yeah, it's
and,
there.
and I'm just glad that I was able to make it in because I had power turn on 2 minutes before this thing. I was just telling them in here that I made coffee in the car by plugging in with an adapter because I had no power. So I was prepared to hang out from the car, and I was totally ready for that. And then power came back on. So thank God. Thank you very much.
That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And if you notice, just a quick shout out to our wonderful sponsor here,
Tensionera Media.
Tensionera Media got my flat bill, so me and Sheldon, rocking the awesome ones there, the Star Wars. I see you down there.
This is my Star Wars / NASA hat. So if we're going for sponsorships here,
yeah,
Star Wars or NASA, happy to rock any of your stuff anytime. Get at me. 40 Deuce on Twitter, really easy.
Awesome.
And I saw a little Sprout Love out there before too, because I got my Sprout Love on right now as well.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. As you see, we're sort of floating around. So I got Community Roundtable now. We're actually rocking some more attention areas.
Yeah. So if you watch us, we're actually changing clothes all day long. We have all kinds of swag from the sponsors. So
we have a rotating closet here, but. Guys, I just wanted to say thanks a lot. You guys did a fantastic job here on the panel. Everything beforehand, everything that you guys had on here was absolutely fantastic. So thank you very much. And Brew, who do we have up next?
Yeah, so coming up next is how to handle social media crisis. So
crises.
Yeah, so that should be pretty interesting. So everybody, you can tune in by going to cmad.co, click on broadcast schedule. You can look at everything that's been broadcasted so far today as well as what's coming up. So we'll see you live in just a few minutes.
See you later, guys.
Bye.
All right, bye.